So we're talking about journalists being jailed. We saw the little theatrics from the CNN crew, but they arrested him anyways.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of stuff going on. I also put an article right under after the Caitlin Johnstone thing. But let's get the Caitlin Johnstone thing up, fam, and tell us what you got.
Okay,
Your pasta.
She mentioned, many journalists are being out there, and she also mentions I think she mentioned CNN. So she says in a shockingly brazen display of authoritarianism, police arrested CNN reporter named Omar Jimenez the other day while he was live uncovering the process of George Floyd's murder by police in Minneapolis. It was preceded by hours of sycophantic police worshipping CNN coverage and followed by days of self-righteous preening by the entire corporate media machine about the crucial role of journalism in its free society, with one Washington Post article going so far as to compare CNN crew to George Floyd himself. Unlike Floyd, Jimenez was back on camera an hour later, glowing reviews for the police who just inexcusably arrested him.
So he was an hour later.
Yeah.
He was back on air.
Exactly.
Should we play a little clip of this, fam?
Yeah, you can play it.
Was quite a scene of what you've just endured for the past hour. Can you tell us what happened?
There seemed to be a little bit of confusion as to what was supposed to or what was allowed to happen. Now, as we were reporting, we had been in verbal contact, at least it seemed, with some of the police officers saying, all right, where can we be? We had heard, we played some of it as they were giving out commands for people to clear the area. And we saw that as protesters completely cleared out. And that, of course, came after there was an hour and a half, or at least where we were standing, where there was no sort of police presence. So as people came down, we saw them walking down the block. And whether we're press or not, we wanted to make sure we were out of the way. So we basically stepped onto the corner is where we were. And I think the moment before the arrest actually happened was we saw at least one protester or at least someone who was not media sort of run past us, and that person was cornered by State Patrol was the main unit that seemed to be there. And then after that person was apprehended, they then turned toward us. Now, and that was the first.
You see that, Johnny?
Okay, yeah, we just got a public safety. They're just reminding us of a curfew tonight.
The county of LA is ordering another curfew from 6 p.m. tonight to 6 a.m. tomorrow for all Los Angeles County, including all cities in the county, which means where we're at. Traveling to and from work, seeking or giving emergency care, and emergency responders are exempt. For more information is available at lacounty.gov emergency. Fam, it doesn't say is exempt for the press.
It did the last couple days, so they might send another one. I just want to say this guy, he's not really. That wouldn't be me after I got. That's definitely not me. Clearly, after I got arrested by the police.
Hours later.
And so this is what the New York Times said. It is common in autocratic countries for journalists to be swept up in arrests during protests and riots, but rare in the United States, where news gathering is protected by the First Amendment. This is the articles Michael Grinbaum and Mark Santors. And then Caitlin writes, independent reporters were quick to point out the absurdity of this claim. And she's quoting people here. I've been reporting on protests for a few years now, and I can say for sure that journalists being swept up in arrests during protests and riots isn't anywhere near rare, tweeted independent journalist Ashoka Jegru in response. And as an independent journalist who was arrested during the Eric Garner and Mike Brown protests in NYC, I'll say this. Omar Jimenez's experience is a common and understood risk independent journalists take, especially people of color journalists in the U.S. This is by Andrew J. Padilla. Then she said, indeed, only an insulated corporate media writer who is entirely unacquainted with protests in the United States should ever be believed such a thing is rare. It may be rare for well-paid reporters on a major platform to be arrested live on national television, but you'll find many reports of journalists being routinely swept up in any major protest anywhere in America in the recent years.
Is that true, fam?
Yeah, fam. And then she says, right over here, my freedom of the press colleagues at the U.S. Press Freedom Tracker are investigating over 20 press freedom violations just from the last 2 days. Reporters arrested, pepper sprayed, shot with rubber bullets. Reads a recent tweet from Freedom of the Press Foundation Executive Director Trevor Trim, who then added, did I say 20? It's more likely double or triple that, and disturbingly, probably many more by the end of the night. So again, these people are dedicated to documenting press freedom violations in the United States. We should totally get a hold of them.
Where were we mentioned?
Absolutely. And later
on.
on.
The Convo couch's Fiorella was arrested and handcuffed and cited while reporting. Johnny, didn't mention you?
On the
protest in Los Angeles, they didn't care. I was pressed. Isabel reported, they put the cuffs on me so tight, my hand is super red, and they treated everyone like criminals.
And look, they arrested a Huffington Post reporter as well, 2 photojournalists. One of these photojournalists that was arrested, by the way, lost her eye.
And had to post $1,000 cash bond to be released. That's what I'm saying. That's money she's never getting back, ladies and gentlemen. Bail reform, too.
Yeah, it's disgusting, you guys. So I just want to say, anybody that's telling you that journalists aren't being arrested, that we're protected by a First Amendment, what First Amendment? They clearly are violating every single thing. Yeah. And
the Yahoo Life one I put up, the journalists across the country have been arrested and injured by the police. Now just look at this shot here, the very next article, John. And it's by Christy Marfeis.
Are you serious? I'm so sorry to interrupt you. 5 p.m. now instead of...
Yeah, they're not going to let you go out there tonight.
I'm going to go.
They're trying to stop the journalists from getting out there. They're trying to stop the protest.
Yeah.
But it says journalists have been targeted in a number of cities as they have
Convo
tried to cover the protest. Protests raged all over the weekend, sparked by the death of George Floyd, a black man who was suffocated and died in police custody in Minneapolis. Stories from a number of major cities detail police actions ranging from questionable to downright horrifying as authorities work to quell the protest across the nation. And from all over the country, reports are emerging of journalists who are arrested, shot at, injured, or otherwise targeted by police as they try to do their job to cover the protest. And, you know, they just had a little story. They're showing this one again, but there was a situation where they hit a journalist, and he was down on the floor, and he was kind of suffocating. He was hurt, and they said, "Journalist, can you turn over, Mr. Journalist?" They mocked him. They arrested him, and they put him in the car. I mean, you're seeing shit like this happen all the time. They have no respect for the freedom of press.
But I thought this only happened in Venezuela, fam.
Nope. In China.
I thought it only happened in Russia.
In China.
Oh.
China. All right. So that's what we got. So the journalists, this is full blown fascism right now, fam.
It is, fam.
This is
like we're not
fascism.
exaggerating here. This is fascism. And it's being employed by both the right and the Democrats.
Oh, because you know why?
All the
it's
things
not only
they
by
have
Trump.
passed.
Yeah. Watch this, fam. It's not only Trump.
No.
While you're saying that, what is this here? What's that one in the green there? It's not just Trump. Obama persecuted more journalists than all presidents combined. So we just said this before.
How is that possible?
The table. Oh, you know what? He set the table. He had a team of lawyers. He employed most lawyers. There were a lot of lawyers in his campaign. So he was always, pushing the limits on what he can do. The Espionage Act, all this right here. I mean, it's just disgusting. And so don't just sit there and say, fuck Trump, unless you say fuck Obama or fuck them all.
Fuck them all.
Fuck them all.
My motto.
That's cool. But don't just single anybody out right now and act like Trump is the one. Because somebody was telling me today, a friend of mine who's good on election integrity, like, we should go and we got to get Trump out first. So what the fuck is that going to do? What is that going to change?
What do you think Joe Biden's going to do? He's going to employ the same things. First of all, Mr. Crime Bill Biden,
yes,
like under Obama, him and Hillary, all of them, they persecuted journalists too, but also they didn't take care of people like Assange. This is why Assange is so important. This is why, because the moment they went after him, that meant they could go after all of us. That's it. If you needed any reason to understand why Assange is important, this is why.